introduction. My name is Michael Solar. I work for Westcon-Comstor, based out of Tarrytown, New York. I've been with the organization for 17 years, and most recently deployed SD-WAN solution over the course of 2018, which is what I'm here to talk about today. A little bit about Westcon. We're a global distribution of technologies and services. 30 plus years supporting over 3,000 users in over 70 countries. So in terms of the SD-WAN discussion, it really came up in 2017. We were looking at our MPLS providers, we were looking at contract renewals, and we sat down with our IT leadership and said, what does our network look like in 5 years? So we sat down, very long discussion, thought about our pain points in terms of, from a traditional network standpoint, where are things, where we could make things better. So from a traditional standpoint, we had very siloed approach. I'm sure like many do, MPLS, internet, firewalls, network complexity, layer 3 switching. So we sat down and said, let's put these pain points together and see what's out there for, to meet our needs. So the top five that really came up was, visibility was one of them, right? So it's very hard, I'm sure everybody knows, to fly blind. Not understanding what's on your network, not understanding your network needs, not understanding your network consumption, it's very hard to manage spend, right? And of course, spend was the next piece because everybody loves cost reduction. The more cost reduction, we can take that reduction and reinvest in technologies to make ourselves better going forward. Scalability, again, having that siloed approach with MPLS bandwidth and internet bandwidth that don't tie together makes it very difficult, especially, I've been here for 17 years, so, one of the funny stories that I always have is when we were actually a Microsoft BPOS customer, right, way back in the day, and it was before, Office 365, and, we had totally invested in having everything internal, having everything from our managed data center, going over MPLS. When we started adding BPOS to the fact, to the picture, well, all of a sudden we're like, wow, the traffic's going out that way, and now all of a sudden, you have 30 users that are trying to download their emails, and it's shutting down, the network. In terms of resiliency, again, what we're trying to do, our end users are our customers. We want to give them the best experience possible. Resiliency, in the MPLS, how the MPLS design was we had some VPN backups, and of course VPN backups work great when they work, but managing them, the amount of overhead with them, especially when things fail and then it doesn't come up, and then it can be disastrous. The other piece is consistency. So eliminating human error and really minimizing and reducing complexity in the network. So we sat down, put our objectives together. We used the simplify, standardize, stabilize, optimize methodology. So in terms of simplify, it was really reduce spend, reduce complexity, reduce cost and consolidating service regionally, and also cloud. Standardizing, centralized management, huge. Standardizing the hardware, template-based configurations for deployments. Stabilize, excuse me. The reduction of network contention was a huge one. High availability, network resiliency. We wanted to make sure we were delivering to the business. And again, the last piece is optimize, right? So having that visibility, understanding the applications, understanding what where our QoS has been put in place, and of course the real time and historical reporting. Ultimately, it goes for the improved end user experience, which directly translate into happy IT people. So proof of concept. Again, we defined the scope, looked at our primary objectives, looked at the deployment selection, testing and evaluation, and then ultimately production deployment. So in terms of scope, we did not do our entire network fabric. We focused on our MPLS sites so that obviously that's where the biggest amount of costing was going to be. Looked at the primary objectives, and again, we built the proof of concept around Silver Peak Unity EdgeConnect. We deployed 3 different varieties in the proof of concept, one being the ECXL, which was for our data centers, the ECSX, the hardware version, and then the ECV were used at some of our EMEA sites. So we defined a series of assessments to execute in 2 regions, tie back into the data center, making sure that the applications that we were currently supporting, and most importantly, VoIP, was still working in good order. And based on the proof of concept, we selected Silver Peak Unity EdgeConnect, and it was deployed for the scope. So here we are today, after a very long 2018. We've deployed 2 data centers. We've deployed 2 Azure data centers, and we've deployed 27 sites globally. The primary have been in EMEA and the APAC regions. So in terms of the site deployment, we did capitalize on the zero touch. We do have several sites that do not have IT staff there. We did an inline deployment. We had some coexistence of our existing network that we had to maintain throughout the deployment. Now we're running on, excuse me, the sites that we're running hardware HA. We're using VRRP. We have a combination of MPLS with internet and/or broadband, using some of the utilized, the state zone-based firewalls at some of the smaller sites, which has been good. So in terms of the value to IT, really in terms of bandwidth, we've seen in certain cases up to a tenfold increase in bandwidth. WAN optimization, which I'll talk about in a minute, with maximizing our investment. We've deployed did a proof of concept in 2018. Q4 2018, and started deploying WAN optimization. It's been excellent. We've seen a lot of reduction, especially in CIFS traffic, some Citrix reduction, and so on. So resiliency, it really leads into uptime, right? And uptime makes our business happy. So even when we've had issues, the fact that we're so diverse from a country standpoint, in some of these countries, there's the maturity of the IT, especially with ISPs, is not always the best. So for example, we have a site in Johannesburg. One of the internet providers has just terrible routing issues all the time. But again, we see it, but our users don't, which is just fantastic. Visibility, again, it makes a world of difference from troubleshooting, from real-time reporting. You can look at the net flows in real time, look at where the routes are going, look to see if it's being optimized, and it's centralized, right? One of the big problems that we had before was with if you tried to pull all these reports from different carriers, you had to take the data, normalize the data, then try to present the data. And of course, it's just time-consuming and a lot of overhead from an IT standpoint. Value to the business, the scalability. Again, scaling even the bandwidth increase with using the link bonding has been just exceptional. We used to have network contention issues beforehand. Those contention issues have disappeared. Application performance. Again, we're using WAN optimization and really, giving the best path with just the dynamic routing, and ultimately leaves us to, a good end user experience. As far as strategy, now that we've put all this behind us, and we're in the optimized phase, it really allows us to focus on when we have issues, we can focus on the issue without managing, the user crisis. And B, now that we have more time and we know that it works, you can sleep better at night. It allows us to concentrate on other things that bring value to the business. So in terms of maximizing our investment and kind of the way going forward, continuous improvement is very important. We want to get the most bang for our buck, so to say. So we're looking to do some site expansion outside of the initial scope, additional MPLS and complexity reduction as things come off our books and contracts. WAN optimization. So like I said before, we started looked at 2018 Q4, did some testing with it in our labs. came back, we enjoyed it, we deployed it in Q1 of 2019. We've been seeing a lot of advantages to it, and we're now, like, again, sitting in the optimizing phase, trying to figure out, okay, what applications do we need to, what can we use for WAN optimization, or what applications can we also add to WAN optimization? Going forward, capitalizing on the SD-WAN fabric, we're looking to do some, further service chaining and consolidation, regionalizing services. Business continuity is a big one that we've discussed. I mean, if you think about, if you had a catastrophic failure at a site and you had to, order an MPLS connection or internet connection, obviously, you're looking at probably, 60 to 120 days. We're sitting there thinking through it. We're like, we could actually just get a broadband connection, get people up and running quickly. It gives you a lot more flexibility. So that's something we've been, thinking about. And again, ultimately, through all of our efforts to, continue to drive down our communications costs and keep our users happy. So I think I have a few minutes. Any questions? Yes.
You are the real user of SD-WAN solution right now. So what, with the Silver Peak, what is the top issues you want to see as the improvement or the change on the existing solutions?
Well, I have to, so we've had very minimal issues, to be honest with you. Even in our proof of concept, our deployment, a lot of our biggest fears were around voice and video, right? Because we were using a lot, MPLS, obviously had QoS, it's got, low hop count, things of that nature. So that was our biggest fear. And even with our proof of concept, ultimately what we did was just shut down MPLS and just saw if it rode. And I have to tell you, I'm pleasantly surprised. Yes.
So I do not want you to name other vendors. There are almost 40 vendors who are in the SD-WAN space.
Right.
What was so special about Silver Peak that made you sign up with them? And
I think it was more, there was timing, right? Timing was a big piece. The second piece, what we really, the forward error correction, that you can, basically provide a quality of service over internet and broadband links was huge. Because, you look at loss, I mean, it really minimizes, when you see it in action, it's pretty phenomenal to watch.